Summer Web Series. Summer Web Series. Summer Web Series.
I'm super excited to be doing this video with you, and because you're our first guest on our summer web series, which is pretty exciting. So I'm glad it's you. Yeah. So if you can just tell folks kind of like where you're from, like what kind of work you do, like your name, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Jahcobie Cosom. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I live in LA now, and I am an artist, educator, award-winning educator and filmmaker.
Ooh.
Yes. So a big part of my work is, I guess, having to do with the crossover between kind of like Black identity, gender, sexuality, and kind of disability in a lot of ways, because I battle with different disabilities and also I'm a cancer survivor. So I write a lot of plays and movies and stuff like that, and just kind of whatever medium calls for whatever story needs to be told, I kind of just do it. I went to an arts high school, Boston Arts Academy, and so much of what Boston Arts Academy taught us, and it's a small liberal arts high school in Boston, was so much about like the systematic racism. And like, our first year, our curriculum, our first year of high school, I kid you not, it was called Africa Lives. And it was this big, like, week-long festival where, not only were we talking about so much like civilization and history, we were also putting in the fabric of what we were dealing with in our communities. Before I even got to high school, one big thing that changed in my life, I realized so many of my friends from when I was younger, they were either in jail or got killed or had to disappear because of some situation. So when I got to high school, it was a pivotal point where I feel like I was maturing a lot, and I was also trying to shake off like these really bad kind of omens around me, because I'm like, who am I to like live to be 16? And that was a privilege for so many people, and that was just such a big thing, and stuff we explored within theater and within music, and kind of like I think propelled me more towards the arts, because when I wrote, I had an opportunity to speak and be an activist against stuff.
Yeah, so I also obviously just wanted to talk to you because I know that you had a lot to say about kind of the Black Lives Matter movement, kind of like where you see it. I know for me, like as it's kind of becoming more visible at the moment, it's been really hard to think about where I fit, like what feels healthy, I think also. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit about that.
As a person who is disabled, I'm a cancer survivor, and right now I have a bad knee issue. I can't be out in the front lines like I was in other protests. When you're in a whole group of people, you never know what can happen. And, there's been so many instances and cases where cops have thrown tear gas, or where, people have used batons, or, even using force with their shields. And, for someone like me who has a cane, or, for someone who might be in a wheelchair, or someone who's having an anxiety attack or having flashbacks, and being there and they're like trying to be present and trying to like do the best they can. It's like they're a frontline soldier, because when everyone else can run back, we're stuck trying to move back. And you'll never go to a protest. I've never been to a protest or most things where they have like a disability section. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I also, when we spoke before, you were talking a lot about kind of this like re-traumatization of like being on the front lines and like what that looks like. So yeah, can you talk about that a little bit more as well?
Well, yeah, I can't go out for a variety of reasons. It triggers me to be in like a really large crowd, and I just don't want to re-experience it. And I have a lot of fear that I haven't moved past with it. And Also I worry about, like, I'm a bigger guy. I have a knee problem. And if something were to happen, I wouldn't be able to be 100% sure I would be able to protect myself the best I could.
Mm.
So my way so far has kind of been being able to at least feel like I'm making a difference is, you know, being a part of the conversation online. And so a lot of things I've been doing have been online, just giving people knowledge. So people like to go, all lives matter. And so I've had that happen a lot. And, I kind of just go, well, if all lives matter, then I'm sure like you can use these 9 tactical, like researched and data backed ways to be able to write to your city councilman, like know what kind of things are being passed and how you can repel them. I'm just trying to educate, I guess. And I think that's like the best I can do right now, to feel like I am a part of the conversation, and also like give people props.
If you can talk a little bit about how you came to understand your disability, maybe, because I also think there are a lot of different reasons that people may or may not identify as disabled, even though they fall under that umbrella.
So I guess I'll start off kind of like my disability kind of starts off at the beginning of kind of my life, and I guess goes into a little bit about kind of like my mom and my parents' identity.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom deals with mental illness. My mom has bipolar and borderline schizophrenia. And me and my mom are like really good friends. She's actually, I would say she's probably like my best friend in the whole world. And definitely the older I get, the more I've been able to not only love her for who she is, but learn so much from her. And she's just a stopping ground. Mainly when I was younger, it was a lot of obesity, and I was like coming to terms with my sexuality. And it was colliding a lot because it was already, I'm depressed from, going through so much bullying. And then, my voice wasn't as deep as everyone else's. And it was a lot of bullying around me being gay, around me not being Black enough, around me like, not fitting into this mold. I had a lot of tough years dealing with depression. I think it was my senior year of high school, and I was depressed. And then there became a point where I was like, either I'm going to die here or I'm going to have to like keep going. And I remember just like looking at myself in the mirror and just, I kept saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. And eventually I started to embody that. And I think even that form of battling my illness of depression, of just saying a positive thing about myself each day, really helped me. When I got into college, which I went to Cal Arts, for me it was like, I've gone through this struggle and I'm a phoenix rising out of the ashes. And for me, California is like this sun I'm rising into. And so I got into college, and my first year was epic. And then fast forward to, I say the like December, January break, started having pains in my neck. My neck slowly stopped being able to move. My whole upper body tensed up. I started to get headaches. I started to get sensitive to sunlight. I wanted to just be a college student. I just wanted to be this kid in college. I wanted to enjoy it and love it and embrace it like everyone around me. And long story short, in 2009, I got diagnosed with stage 4 nasopharyngeal cancer. And from there, my life kind of shattered. It was like I was competing to just go back to this like normality. My first round was awful. I would have chemo brain, which is basically your mind slips and you kind of don't have this cognitive sense. And so much of me was going through the trauma of leaving college and being snatched away from like such, I guess, looking back like a milestone, and being snatched back into something I didn't want to be. So much of my mind and my heart was fighting what was going on with me physically and where I was physically. But when I went in for my second round, I started to realize all this, like these things that were going on in the hospital. Like sometimes people wouldn't call me by the right name, and that made me uncomfortable. And then it was like, I don't like being trapped, and like to like finally make 18, to finally get in college, where you go to like the college you want to go to of your dreams, and then you get snatched back and it's like, no, you can't leave this hospital. I was not having that. You know, my oncologist at the time was not a good fit for me, and he said some really nasty things to me. I ended up leaving treatment, and he said basically, if you don't come back to treatment, you're going to have about 2 weeks to live, maybe a month if that. And I said, well, you know, if I'm going to die, I'm going to be around my friends, and I'm going to go back to college. Like, I'm not going to, like, my goal was to graduate college in 4 years, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I went back, and I didn't die, obviously. And for, I would say, about a year and a half, 2 years, you know, it was a lot of me fighting my illness by myself. That was a lot of my college experience. At the time, I was friends with a really beautiful person who I was really best friends with. And one day I just said to him, I said, I can't keep faking this. And he said, what do you mean? I kind of just broke down for him. And what he did, he like started back up his car. He like was like, you know, I went to school with friends whose father, who is like the head of oncology here, like, we're going to make this happen. So he took me and introduced me to a doctor, a head of oncology, who ended up finding me the perfect oncologist out here. And I started chemotherapy at Cedars-Sinai. And I didn't really tell anyone. I only told a few people. So for, I would say, the first like 5 months of me going through, I would say, no, maybe, yeah, for first couple of months of me going through treatment, I depended a lot on like maybe 4 people who I would swear to secrecy to not tell anyone. That was a big experience in my life. And that was like a big part of, that was a turning part of my identity as a gay Black man and a big part of myself as a cancer survivor. Well, a couple of things coming to terms with disability for me has been, number one, the SAM Fund. And, you know, their kind of slogan is helping young cancer survivors to move forward. SAM Fund was the first big community of cancer survivors that I felt comfortable in. And learning that, you know, even like how low the financial funding for cancer survivors between 19 and 39 are. And I've just been so passionate about that because I don't think most people think about that or know that. Within my writing, I have a play called Chemo Chic. And I actually started writing it when I was in cancer. And the main part of Chemo Chic is a monologue that I wrote, well, that is written based off of my experience driving myself back after 7 days being in the hospital with 24 hours of chemo pumping through my veins. And it was the moment where I realized I needed help. And I think as someone who's disabled, and I think people with disabilities, we want so hard to do it ourselves because there's a shame factor, at least for me. There's a really shame factor of how's people going to perceive me? Am I worthy of this? And so that was a big moment for me personally as a disabled person to just learn that sometimes, like, you know, the world puts people and things in front of you to help you get to the point you need to. So that's what that's the centerpiece of my play, Chemo Chic, is about having chemo brain and kind of like connecting with your disability and connecting it to the sound you hear when you drive, the people you're attracted to like just like all these worldly vibrations. I don't know, and it's gotten a lot of like really good feedback from it, and a lot of my work has to do with cancer and it has to do with these different illnesses because I think there needs to be a higher level of awareness. I'm a part of a STEAM board for Boston Arts Academy. It's the STEAM Advisory Board. And so much of the work, STEAM, anyone who doesn't know STEAM education needs to look it up. It's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And I'm a part of the STEAM Advisory Committee at Boston Arts Academy. But so much of the work is dealing with how to really pique people's senses from different ways of learning. So STEAM education, I think, is one way that within the world, people with disabilities are kind of given a higher up stool, because now we're allowed to hopefully have the opportunity to be able to create that one thing we wanted to create sooner, to write that one thing we want to write sooner, or to learn how to describe our work in a way that we couldn't before.
Okay, so where can folks find you?
If you need to find me, I have an artist page on Facebook. It's Jahcobie Cosom, Jahcobie Cosom. You can also Google me. And my website is jahcobiecosom.com, or you can type in jahcobiecosom.inc, and you'll find a lot of my writings, from plays to poetry to theater to screenplays. And then, whatever kind of way you want to reach out to me. I would love to hear from people and start a dialogue. It's about dialogue.